Emotions will be on display again over the next 23 days as we begin the 77th Tour de France. And the world's longest and richest bicycle race is ready to begin its 3 weeks journey to Paris, starting for the first time from France's Space Age Centre here in Futuroscope, a new theme park that uses all of the latest technology to combine business and pleasure. Developed on agricultural land, it's the most unusual setting for the race, a few miles outside Poitiers and about a 3 hours drive to the southeast of Paris. The riders have been arriving here all week, and yesterday, Greg LeMond, last year's winner, was the main attraction at the routine medical check-in. The defending champion, whose fitness has been in doubt, passed with flying colours. But that was almost 24 hours ago, and now it's approaching 1:15 on Saturday, June the 30th, 1990, and the Soviet rider, Zhemodulin Abdujaparov, is about to launch the Tour de France on the road to Paris. Hello and welcome to what is our first day's coverage of the Tour de France, and for the next 23 days we hope you'll stay with us and just find out what makes these world top athletes tick. We won't just be giving you the sporting aspect of the Tour de France, we'll also be going behind the scene to meet the riders. We'll also be going out on the route de Tour, where we'll meet the people and try and understand the ambience, the special ambience that exists here in the Tour de France. And for the first time as well, we'll be giving you all of this from our base here on the route de Tour. Well, one must ask the question, can this Tour de France live up to the reputation of last year, almost 12 months ago, when two riders came onto the Champs-Élysées, Greg LeMond and Laurent Fignon, and in the last 75 metres, they decided the winner of the Tour.
So the Tour de France comes down to the climax it's always threatened it would be. These two men have been Siamese twins throughout the race. Now the cord is broken and it looks like Greg LeMond might, but look at the finish by Fignon. They're all turned off. It's going to be close. 27:47 he must do. The clock is counting down. So are the meters to the line. This is going to be incredible. Fignon is bouncing off the barriers here. He's lost the Tour de France. The crowd has realised it. Laurent Fignon has lost the Tour de France. Right on the line as he comes over. 55 seconds is countdown. He has lost the Tour de France by 8 seconds. Can you believe that? Laurent Fignon has lost the Tour and Greg LeMond has won it. And Fignon has fallen over right in the crowd and collapsed on the floor. This is the end of the Tour de France and Fignon is down on the floor in amongst that crowd. We make his defeat 8 seconds. Can you believe it? After over 2,000 miles, we've come down to the last 200 meters of the most incredible sporting event in the world at any time.
Well, Greg, last year in the Tour de France, you gave us some fantastic images. What are your main memories from the Tour de France last year?
My main memories, of course, the Champs-Élysées, seeing Fignon come down the last 200 meters and, you know, just the excitement afterwards, just winning it. It was a dream come true, and considering all the stuff I went through and was at such a low point before that, and just that last day, I mean, it was, I remember it was a very, I suffered a lot last year in the Tour de France, but then every year in the Tour de France you suffer.
Well, you don't win the Tour de France without suffering. Do you think you can win the Tour de France again this year?
I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to jinx myself, but no, I think I'm ready for it. And I'm ready to put up a fight. I mean, I can't really tell until I hit the mountains, but I feel like I'm ready to try to win the race. Try to win the race.
Okay, well, if it isn't you who wins the Tour de France, who would you think, who have you got as your favourites to win the Tour this year?
My biggest danger to me is Pedro Delgado, and then Buño, Fignon, Roche, Alcala, Mote, and there's a lot. Stephen Roche. So But my main concern would be Delgado for me, and Fignon. I mean, it's just hard to judge Fignon. I mean, I can't say how he is.
Well, he probably says the same thing about you. It's hard to judge Le Mans.
It's exactly. Which leaves everybody wondering, so it's
Okay.
good.
Good. Thank you very much, Greg.
All right.
Cheers.
Well, those are Greg's thoughts, and I must say the opinion here around the Tour Caravan is that this will be a very open race indeed. Well, we've also taken on the invidious task of naming the first 15 riders to come home in Paris, and it's not an easy job, of course, but these are the riders that we think will succeed. In 15th place, we suggest Steven Rooks, the Dutchman who was runner-up a couple of years ago, but his form this season has been doubtful. Sean Kelly, back from injury and winning again at 34 years of age. His last Tour de France will be a good one. We go for 14th. Steve Bow, the Canadian so narrowly beaten in Paris-Roubaix. He's 31 now, but has a new team and will challenge. And his new teammate is Andy Hampsten. We think Andy will pip him by 1 place, but can he ever get better than that 4th place in 1986? Charlie Motte is coming up to good form. 2nd in the Tour of Italy, the man from the Alps will challenge. And the first of 3 top Spaniards is Miguel Indurain, the right-hand man of Pedro Delgado. The other top Spaniard, Marino Lajareta, 5th in the Tour de France last year and 5th this year already in the Tour of Italy. Top Italian, Gianni Bugno, 2nd overall at the moment in the World Cup and race-long leader and winner of the Tour of Italy last month. And now he's on a new team. Eric Breukink, the winner of the Prologue time trial a year ago, could challenge all the way to Paris this time. We predict 6th place for Stephen Roach, the Irishman, coming back after injury and arriving too at top form. And for Scotland's Robert Miller, well, we think he'll finish 5th. He's enjoying his best season since he finished 4th in 1984. Laurent Fignon, he's as likely to win the race as finish last. He's that unpredictable, so we'll settle for 4th. And the ice-cold blue eyes of Greg LeMond, he will challenge again for sure, although this season so far he's been out of the results. We'll go for 3rd. In 2nd place, we predict Raul Alcala, who became the first Mexican to win a stage last year. Now he believes he can win the Tour. And the rider we feel will occupy the #1 spot, the rider who was so disappointed last year when he missed his start in the time trial, Pedro Delgado. 3rd last year, back on top this. Well, I suspect that some of you will not agree with all of those selections, but why not pick some of your own and follow their fortunes over the next 2 to 3 weeks? There were notably some names missing from that list. Gert-Jan Ternischer, the Dutchman who won the King of the Mountains last year. He, in fact, now is starting a 6-month suspension for taking dope for a 2nd time. Also missing the top Colombian climber, Luis Herrera. His Capi de Colombia team were not given one of the 6 wild cards. And personally, the one name I would have liked to have seen here, Malcolm Elliott, the British sprinter from Sheffield. But I'm afraid to say his Tekka team also not among the 23 to come to the start line. But one man who is here for the first time and on our Channel 4 commentary team is Gary Imlach.
While Phil and Paul concentrate on the daily racing, I'll be looking at everything else that goes to make up the Tour, like the story of East Germany's Olaf Ludwig. Up until recently, the career of the reigning Olympic champion had been impeded by the Berlin Wall. Today, he's riding in his first ever Tour de France as a member of the Panasonic team, and I'll be following his progress throughout the race. Also racing for the first time, on blocks so to speak, is an entire team of Soviet professionals. And although none of them realistically expects a yellow jersey, in years to come this Tour could be looked back on as the one which paved the way for the first Eastern European winner. Of those credited with more chance this time round, though, the bookies' favourite is Pedro Delgado, the 1988 champion. The current odds on him are 5-2, with last year's winner and All-American hero Greg LeMond third favourite, behind last year's runner-up and all-French anti-hero Laurent Fignon. They're at 3-1 and 4-1 respectively, with Ireland's Stephen Roach at 7s, before the odds get up into double figures for the rest of the field. As you saw earlier, that's not too far away from our own predictions for the race, with one notable exception. We've tipped the Mexican, Raul Alcala, as a possible runner-up in this year's Tour. As far as the bookies are concerned, he's not worth a place in the top 10. We'll see.
So that's the scene set for you. The Prologue time trial is still going on behind me, and after the break, we'll catch up with all the best times. It will also give us a chance, too, to see the latest technology in bicycle racing. And as far as we understand, Greg LeMond is going to come out with yet another special pair of handlebars. See you after the break. Hello again and welcome back to Futuroscope, and the Prologue time trial is in action. Alongside me as ever on the Tour de France, Paul Sherwin. And Paul, we're in our commentary position here for the next 3 weeks, but today's time trial of vital importance, I think.
Very important for all the riders to get a good start psychologically, because it'll place them for the first few days of the Tour de France. But after last year's Tour, when there was only 8 seconds separated the riders in Paris, every second lost or gained today is going to be important at the end of this Tour.
Right, well, it's time now to catch up with the times recorded and just find out what is happening in the Prologue.
And here is Britain's Sean Yates, and already his time is behind that of Francis Moreau, the teammate of Stephen Roach, who's done a tremendous ride to take the lead so far. 7 minutes 59.06 seconds. And Sean Yates, a former winner of a time trial stage of the Tour de France, is going to fall back into a time of around 8 minutes 20 seconds or so. The overall situation at the moment then, as Sean Yates finishes in 17th place, is that Moreau leads Thomas Wegmuller in second place. He's done 8 minutes 8.14, just a fraction of a second ahead of Jesper Skibby of Denmark. He has the third slot at the moment. And this looks like a new possible time coming in from Raul Alcala, who won the Prologue in the Tour de Trump this year. And this will really be a threat from one of the favourites of the Tour de France. An outsider in many people's minds, but Paul Sherwin and myself think he has a real chance this year. What a way to start. 7:53.19, top of the leaderboard for Raul Alcala of Mexico. And here is the first of the two Irish hopes, Sean Kelly. And this is going to be a good ride by Sean Kelly. It's going to tell us that this man is ready to challenge in this year's Tour de France. The winner of the Tour of Switzerland, 34 years of age, aiming this year for a 5th green jersey for the best points rider. Kelly is going to really chase for the one jersey he's always wanted, the yellow jersey as winner of the Tour de France. And it's going to be a time that's going to go outside of Raul Alcala, but it will keep him right up amongst the favourites of this race. So this will be a great ride by Sean Kelly. And he gets a great cheer off the crowd here. Riding his 12th Tour de France, 6th best at the moment. And this is going to be a strong ride by Thierry Marie, who's won a Prologue in the Tour de France before. The teammate of Laurent Fignon. But it's Fignon, of course, where they'll all lean for the big win in the Tour. But for the moment, it would be nice to pick up a yellow jersey, at least for the start. And Thierry Marie is doing a tremendous ride here. He's going to push Raul Alcala off the top. If he keeps this up to the line, he's absolutely sprinting down the road. And look at this for the finish. Thierry Marie, the new leader, 7:49.08. France have a man on top of the leaderboard for the moment. And here is Stephen Roach. And his time is a good one, because he's not necessarily comparing his performance today against that of Thierry Marie. Marie will not win this Tour de France, of that we can be sure. But Stephen Roach is thinking a lot further ahead than that, and his time is very, very good when it's being compared now with the already finished Raul Alcala. 6.3 miles, 6.3 kilometres rather. Time trial is proving very troublesome indeed. Conditions are extreme. There's a cold wind blowing across the course at gale force. The riders are struggling. Stephen Rook's on the right there, making his start about 700 metres away from where Roach is now. As he starts to come up to the finish, he's gone outside 8 minutes, but it's a good finish. 9th place at the moment for Stephen Roach, 8 minutes 7.82. And there with a massive crowd around him is last year's winner, Greg LeMond. And you can see there the new shaped handlebars he's riding. That one piece coming up, and both hands will grip those. He lays across the bicycle to form this arrowhead shape as part of the aerodynamics that he's been studying during the off-season. So Greg LeMond is off in the defence of his Tour de France. Just over 6 kilometres to go now. The question is, will he come back with the best time? And if Laurent Fignon fails this year in his bid to win the Tour de France for France, then we may have to rely on Charlie Motte, who lives at the base of the Alps just outside Grenoble. Second in the Tour of Italy this year. He's come right up to form, just in time for the Tour. An outstanding time trialist, although over this short distance he's not really coming through, but I can tell you if this wind continues to blow for tomorrow's team time trial, then the race overall could be turned upside down, because he's extremely strong and the riders are going to spend a considerable way riding into the teeth of it. Motte, to a nice round of applause, takes 33rd position. Well, there's Greg LeMond from one of our helicopters out on the course. He's still a considerable way to go. And he looks, Paul, to me as though he's labouring a little bit.
Well, all the riders have been labouring at this part of the course at the moment. There's a slight climb in the middle of the race, and this is where Greg is at the moment. As we go back down to Legeretta, who's just trying to get around his third major tour this year. As he comes into the finish, we're still going to be way outside Thierry Marie's time.
Marino Legeretta, an amazing character, this Spaniard. It's the third time in succession he's ridden all three big tours in the same season, the tours of Spain, Italy and France. And in fact, his one ambition before he retires in 2 years' time, he says, is to ride the major tours 28 times, and he's ridden them 25. He's not going to go away today, though, with a yellow jersey. He won't be too concerned about that. 8:19 for him. Back with Greg LeMond, now slipping into that style that won him the Tour de France last year over that final time trial. These bars, they reckon, give him the perfect dynamic position, but immediately we switch back up to Eric Breukink, because he was the winner of the Prologue time trial last year, and he starts today fourth from the end, just Delgado, Fignon and LeMond to come, and Breukink also having to bow to the superior speed of Thierry Marie. So it looks as though, Paul, we may be having a good start for the Castorama Rally Cycles team.
Breukink 8:08 at the moment. It's not going to be the winner of the Prologue like he was last year.
So 20th place for Eric Breukink. And that a great disappointment, although I'm sure he's happy with the ride that Raoul Alcala has done today, his PDM teammate. And LeMond comes towards the second half of the course. Just over 6 kilometres. The wind absolutely gale force and is also cold. Yesterday it was a very, very hot day indeed. Here's Delgado coming in. Pedro Delgado, he made it on time this year, Paul.
Well, he made it on time. He wasn't going to do what he did last year. He bought a brand new watch to come to the Tour de France. He's not doing too bad a time at the moment. It's been a very difficult course for him. It's not his sort of time trial, this very short one, but he's there. He's not far out of the reckoning, and I think we're going to see a lot more of Pedro Delgado over the next 3 weeks.
Well, nobody would expect Pedro to take on Thierry Marie, but I would like to see Thierry Marie try to keep up with Delgado when we go across to the Juras, the Alps and the Pyrenees. That'll be another tale, and that, of course, we'll tell you as this race unfolds. But Delgado now is thinking only of limiting his losses. 24th place, he'll be happy enough with that for now. So the crowd wait now for the arrival of the top two men of 1989. And here is one of them, Laurent Fignon, beaten by a handful of metres at the end of over 3,000 kilometres. That is a thought that will stay with him for the rest of his life. But he's also won this Tour de France twice, and we must never forget that, in 1983 and in 1984. And Fignon is not doing too badly.
He's come up with a good time here. He's just going to be over the 8-minute mark, I would think, but it's amazing to notice that Fignon has adopted the handlebars made famous by Greg LeMond last year. As he's coming down the finishing straight, a really respectable time here by Fignon.
So look at this for a great finish. And the crowd, we always say, is criticised by the press, but I tell you, the crowd are out of their seats for the first time. 8.878, 14th place for Laurent Fignon. And that, I am sure he'll be satisfied with. And now he's being chased by the man who always seems to follow him in time trials these days, Greg LeMond, the American, No performances at all this year. His form has simply been bad. He's had a virus, yet he says he's come here and he's fit to take on the challenge. Let's see if he can, because look at the ride here. Greg LeMond is going to challenge Thierry Marie. This will really upset the favourites. If they see a ride off LeMond today, they will be shaken by the man who's done nothing all year. And LeMond is going to push Marie all the way to the finish. Greg LeMond at least might stack second or third place here on the line. 7:53. Greg LeMond is in second place in the Tour de France, and this race has hardly begun. He is going to be totally delighted with that, and he's going to say, now call me fat and unfit.
Very pleased with today's performance.
Oh yeah, it's been my best prologue. Second is my best prologue in my 5 Tour de France's, so I'm happy.
So there's no doubt about the message, is there? That man Greg LeMond is back again. No form all year, and he comes to Futuroscope and he produces a ride like that to take second place. Here's the result then today: a win for the Frenchman Thierry Marie from the Castorama Rally team. LeMond gets second place, just 4 seconds back, and alongside him in third place, a few tenths of a second slower, the Mexican Raul Alcala, and he's one of our secret tips for a high finish. The yellow jersey, though, that will be on the shoulders now of Thierry Marie for tomorrow's stages, and he gets the flowers as well. It'll be a happy time in the Hotel Angleterre tonight. Paul Sherwin and I are staying there, and Thierry Marie is in fact in the room next door to us, so I guess we'll have to go to bed early. I don't think anybody expected this high wind here this afternoon, and the 2 Irish riders, Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly, also did well. Roach was finishing in 10th place and Kelly 11th. Sean Yates, he took 42nd, Martin Early 121st, and Robert Miller, he was 155th. Tomorrow the riders have a double dose of racing, a road race in the morning and a team time trial in the afternoon, all based here in Futuroscope. Back to France and Futuroscope.